Hi everyone, for math today we are going to go over a little bit of review again because tomorrow we are going to have a test. So our review today is going to go over just a little bit of what we have done in the past couple of chapters as well as some review from this chapter. So before we were learning about numbers as well, 2 and 3 digit numbers, what I want to try and go back to remembering is greater than and less than. When we were learning about greater than and less than, we were learning about numbers that are bigger compared to numbers that are smaller, right? And then we learned about some fractions. So we were learning about how to write fractions, and we were learning about how to draw some fractions as well. And then, of course, we'll do some review from this chapter, our adding and subtracting with 2 and 3 digit numbers. So let's get started with some greater than and less than. I have a couple of numbers at the top of the board here. So let's take a look at our first set over here. This first number is 676. It's a very big number. I want you to decide if it is greater than or less than this number here, 212. You can feel free to shout it out, greater than or less than. Or if you remember, we had a very hungry fish that would always want to eat a lot of food. So our hungry fish, his name was Freddie, he would always eat the bigger meal or the bigger number. And that was also going to help us decide which direction our greater than or less than sign went. So you can also decide which direction Freddie the fish's little mouth is going to open with your hands if you'd like. I hope you went this way because 676 is very much larger than 212. The second set that I have here is 38 and 83. So you can use your Freddie the fish hands and decide which way he should be eating, which way his mouth should open. Would he eat 38 or would he eat 83? Of course, Freddie the fish is so hungry he wants to eat the biggest number. His mouth's gonna open in this direction. He's very hungry. Now, if we had two numbers that were the exact same, do you remember what you need to do there? If we had two numbers that were the exact same as that, like 7 on one side and 7 on the other side, we would have to write our equal sign. They're the same. So Freddie the fish would eat either one. They would be the same. Next, we talked about fractions. So let's see if we can remember what they are. First, we talked about halves, thirds, and fourths. So halves are when something is divided into 2. Thirds are when something is divided into 3, and fourths are when something is divided into 4. Okay, so I have a group of apples here. What I want to decide is how many of the apples have been eaten, or what is the fraction we would write for the amount of apples that have been eaten. What we could do first is our denominator. It's a really big word, but it means the bottom number. The bottom number is always the total amount of pieces, right? So here we have 1, 2, 3 pieces. 3 goes on the bottom. And how many of these apples were eaten? There's only 1 apple eaten, so only 1 goes on the top. That's what I was trying to figure out, how many were eaten. Now I've got a very delicious looking pizza here. It's got some pepperoni on it, cheese, maybe some bacon, who knows, whatever kind of pizza you like. But I want to decide what fraction of the pizza is left. how much has not been eaten, okay? So first I need to decide, it's very easy to start with the bottom number, to decide how many pieces there were altogether. So my pizza is divided into 1, 2, 3, 4. There were 4 pieces of pizza, and I'm looking for how many are left. So let's see how many were not eaten. 1, 2, 3. 3 slices of pizza are left, which means 3/4 of the pizza is left. Now, always when you have something to eat, you need to have a drink as well. So I have a glass here of water. I want to try and see if we can decide how many parts of the glass there are, or how much of the glass is drinking, how much of the juice is drinking. It looks like our glass is divided into 2 parts, and 1 of the parts is already drinking, which means that 1/2 of the glass has been drinking. Now let's go on to some of the stuff that we've been doing in this chapter. We're going to practice subtracting and adding some of our 2- and 3-digit numbers. Let's start with our first one here. Our first question says 89 minus 32. Always when we add and subtract, we start with the ones column, move on to the tens, and if there are hundreds, then the hundreds. So let's start with our ones column here. I've already divided it up because that helps me keep my thoughts straight, what numbers I'm adding and what numbers I'm subtracting. So it says 89 minus 32, doing the ones column first, 9 minus 2, trying to think about what that is, 9 minus 2. If I have 9 and I take away 2, the answer is 7. Okay, then I move on to my tens column. I'm done with the ones, I figured it out, and now I go to the tens column. 8 minus 3. 8 minus 3. What is 8 minus 3? If I had 8 and I took away 3, my answer would be 5. So 89 minus 32 equals 57. Let's move on to our adding practicing. So here we have a 3-digit number, which means we have hundreds, tens, and ones for this question. But again, we always start with the ones column. My ones column is 7 plus 2. 7 plus 2, what is that? If I have 7 and I add 2 more, my answer is 9. Okay, I'm done the ones. Let's move on to the tens. 4 plus 2. What is 4 plus 2? If I had 4 and I add 2, my answer is 6. I hope that's what you said as well. My next column, now I move into the hundreds column. It is 1 plus 5. That one's pretty simple. If I have 1 and I add 5 more, just 1 more than 5, my answer is 6. So even though this question looked very scary because it is 3 digits, it goes 147 plus 522, 2 very big numbers. It still equals a bigger number, 669. What I would like you to do is take out your textbook. We're going to do our last review page, so you can open up to 281. On the top of 281, you see those greater than questions there. So for these 4 questions, you're going to look at the numbers on each side and decide which way the fish mouth is going to face. Remember, he likes the bigger meal, the bigger numbers. In this middle section here, we're looking at our fractions. So beside each picture is a fraction. You need to color the shape or the set to match the fraction. So 3/4 is our first fraction. We have 4 here. You're going to color in 3. In this one here, we have 2/3. So 3 is how many crabs we have. You need to match this fraction, 2/3. So you need to color in 2 of the 3 crabs. On the bottom here, you have some adding questions. You have the tens and ones beside. First, you're going to write the number in the box, and then add them all together. Ones first, then tens. You'll do the same here. Then turn the page, grade 1. And you're going to do some adding and subtracting here, so make sure you pay attention to if it is adding or if it is subtracting. You can write some lines down if that's going to help you keep the adding and subtracting straight. And then you have some pictures here of some numbers. So they're shown to you in tens frames and in our bean containers. I want you to write the number it's showing on the line beside. Then we have a word problem. I will read the word problem for you, but I would like you to try and find the important information and decide if you are adding or subtracting on your own. It says, Alma had 6 dimes and 3 pennies. Then she lost 21 cents. How much money does she have now? So you write out your adding or subtracting question here and write the answer on the line as well. This bottom question kind of has to deal with the one on top. It says, circle the coins to show how much money Alma has now. So however much what the answer was, however much was left, that's what you're going to count out in the coins here. And then you are done your work for today. Tomorrow we will have our test, so I'll post a video on how you can do your test, and then you just kind of need to try and complete it as much as possible on your own. Okay, see you later.